Hi Naturals! Welcome back to Go Natural English, the place for you to speak English fluently and with confidence. Today, I'm going to share 10 ways that we can train your brain to speak English just like a fluent English speaker. These are quick, powerful tips that I share with my most successful students inside the Go Natural English Academy. But today I'm going to share them with you. You'll want to watch until the end because each tip builds your brain for fluency, and you'll be able to use them as daily habits. Remember that training your brain doesn't cost a thing. You just have to decide that you're willing to do it. Make some changes about the way you think, your habits, and behaviors. But you can do this as long as you're willing to commit to your English fluency. And check out the link in the pinned comment or go to gonaturalenglish.com/free lessons for a free downloadable practice worksheet PDF that will help you through the full lesson. You must train your brain by believing that you can become fluent in English. Fluency actually starts with belief. If you are constantly telling yourself, I'll never become fluent, my English is so bad, well, guess what? Your subconscious will agree. Instead, say, I'm becoming more fluent in English every day. Really, say it. Repeat after me. I'm becoming more fluent in English each day. Or, I'm learning to become a confident, fluent English speaker little by little. That simple shift in the way that you think about yourself really unlocks your brain's learning power, your potential. And that's why I tell my students to believe it before they see it. You must train your brain to think in English, not translate from your mother tongue. When you translate, you slow yourself down big time. And while that's okay for a beginner in English, you are not a beginner anymore. If you're watching this, that means you are ready to become fluent. So train your brain to think in English. And in fact, I have a really good video on that very topic that I will link to in the comments or in the free lesson post if you're at gonaturalenglish.com. And here's how you train your brain to think in English. Train your brain with the simple inner monologue thoughts that you hear or you tell yourself every day. For example, I am hungry, or I'm thirsty, or what should I do next? Or where's my phone? Let's go. These are all simple phrases that we probably all think every day, and you can start to think them in English. I do this with Spanish. I do this with Japanese or Portuguese or French or any language that I want to improve. This is the first step to start training your brain to think in English. And when you're present with your thoughts and you can start changing them into English, it actually rewires your brain. And that's why I tell my students to stop translating and start thinking. You must train your brain with repetition and rhythm. You see, a language is like a song. We have ups and downs. We have flow. We have rhythm. We have stressed syllables, stressed words, and even phrases where we stress the whole thing. Fluency is musical. It's not just words, it's rhythm, stress, and flow. Listen and repeat. Songs, phrases, short sentences. I love listening to music in the language that I'm learning. Do you have a favorite song in English? Record yourself speaking English or singing your favorite song and see if you sound natural. And that's why I tell my students to train your ear like a musician when you want to become fluent in English. You must train your brain to expect to speak English. If you're always listening and never speaking, your brain gets lazy. It thinks all I have to do is receive information and try to comprehend what people are saying. But that's not all you want to do in English, right? Because to really be truly fluent, you need to speak up. Instead, expect to use what you hear. As soon as you hear English, think about how you could use that phrase or the English you know to respond. After every lesson, say something in English out loud, even if it's just one phrase or one word. Every little bit helps. Just like they say, every penny counts, then every word in English counts towards your fluency. And that's why I tell my students to treat input, which means what you hear in English, like a speaking opportunity. You must train your brain with triggers and routines. Let me explain. Choose a time and a place to study. Even 5 minutes a day. You know, I always say it takes 15 minutes a day to build fluency, but 5 minutes is better than nothing. Link it to a trigger, such as after coffee, during your morning walk, or your commute to work. That way, you link English practice to something that you already do. And routines like this create momentum, and momentum creates fluency. And that's why I tell my students that fluency is built with small daily routines and rituals. You must train your brain with emotional connection. We remember things that matter to us. So don't just memorize. Have you ever had a strong feeling about someone or a situation? Whether it's good or bad, whether you feel love or hate, whether you're excited or feel anger, you're more likely to remember that situation if there's an emotion involved versus something you just don't care about. So watch shows that you love. Talk about your passions. Tell your story. And if you're studying some especially boring topic in English, try to at least say the words, the vocabulary words, or the grammar points, or the phrases, or whatever it is that you're learning with feeling. Emotion makes English unforgettable. And that's why I tell my students to learn what they love. You must train your brain to speak before you're ready. You know, there's a lot of things in life that we feel like we're just not ready for. But you know, no one really feels ready for most big, important things in life. So we have to train ourselves to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and speak before we're ready. Perfection is the enemy of fluency. Do not wait for perfection because honestly, it will never come. Even native speakers don't speak perfect English. So even if your sentence isn't perfect, speak. That's how your brain learns what works. And you have meaningful things to say. The world needs to hear your story, your thoughts, your opinion. And that's why I tell my students, speak now, fix it later. You must train your brain to notice, not to judge. If you hear a new word, don't judge it, just notice. Ask yourself or someone you're speaking with, what does it mean? Think about how did they use it? You can ask, how do you use this word? Can you give me an example? When you hear a new word or phrase, it can send you into panic mode. You might freeze. You might have some negative thoughts about yourself or your English skills. Why don't you know this word or phrase? But try to shift your thinking to be open and curious and just notice. What was that word? What could it mean? How might I use it? And try to make a mental note, if not an actual note on paper or in your phone. Observation is much more powerful than criticism, negativity, or self-doubt. And that's why I tell my students to be curious, not critical. You must train your brain to use English for real life and not just tests. I know that many of my students study for the TOEFL, IELTS, or other English tests. But don't just study English for tests. If you really want to be fluent, you need to practice for real life situations. Text a friend in English. Write your to-do list in English. Comment on YouTube in English. Comment on this video in English. try living your life in English as much as possible. Push yourself out of your comfort zone to do things in English that you don't have to necessarily do in English. And that's why I tell my students, English isn't just a subject, it's a lifestyle. You must train your brain with identity. I am a fluent English speaker. Really, you have to think this and say it. Say it with me now. I am a fluent English speaker. Your confidence will actually improve your fluency. People will perceive you as more fluent than you might actually feel about yourself right now. Stop saying, I'm trying to learn English, or I don't speak English, or my English is not very good. Start saying, I am a fluent English speaker in progress. If it makes you feel better to say that. We're all a work in progress, to be honest. Your identity and how you think about yourself shapes your progress. It shapes your whole life. Become the speaker you want to be from the inside out. And that's why I tell my students, fluency starts with who you believe you are. If you enjoyed these tips, imagine what you'll achieve when you practice them every day. Which tip was your favorite? Or do you have more to add? Comment and let me know. And remember, I've created a free downloadable worksheet PDF for you to practice after watching this lesson. Get it at gonaturaleNglish.com/free lessons. You can check the pinned comment for that link. Subscribe, like, comment, and share with a friend who's ready to speak English fluently. And see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.